Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The World Championship dates and location have been officially confirmed and we are returning to Vegas for the first time in Call of Duty in almost 5 years. Couple of parties very excited about this one. Legion themselves getting the chance if they do qualify to play in front of what might be a bit of a home crowd, but also OpTic Dashy, one of the best performances in Call of Duty history in his first event for OpTic almost 5 years ago in Las Vegas itself. Will he be able to repeat the feat when of course OpTic qualify, which is coming up shortly? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into. Firstly, some roster mania discussions in the North American Challenger side. Load of very interesting teams there being formed here. Major Maniac, Paulex, Wardy and T-Real is a very interesting one, and a few kind of mishmash of some interesting players. But Doug Martin is cooking something, right? These guys, obviously Doug is teaming with currently with Shawnee, Pentagram and Snoopy, we believe is the last guy to come into that roster. And as Doug says, I'm about to make everyone very interested in Boston Call of Duty, and goes on to say, if what is about to happen fails, I deserve all the criticism in the world. Now, look, I don't know what Doug is getting at here. I know that, look, if you read too much into what Doug says here, you will be disappointed. It's how it goes. Doug is the impression farming masterclass. Whether he's, obviously what it sounds like, oh, maybe he's coming into the starting team, right? It's like Doug's coming in for the main roster for the major, but I semi-doubt that's going to happen. I don't exactly know what the plans are here, whether he's making, decided to make some other changes or he's got some other ideas up his sleeve in terms of what he's going to do from like a content perspective. But as Pal says, you can't fool me, I'm familiar with your game. So not really too much into this yet, which I think is a wise idea, but definitely want to keep your eyes on over the next 24 hours or so what exactly Doug is cooking up there at the Boston Breach side of things. Also wanted to mention snaking, because big topic in Call of Duty over the last several years, to be honest, and XDefiant have their solution to snaking. Now, what happens here in XDefiant is if you kind of try bunny hop around or use too many movements repetitively, your aim starts bouncing around and it is no longer fully accurate. Now, this is the solution. This would seem like a bug, but it's actually an intended feature, as X says. Want to address and provide context for this. This is currently by design that your aim is penalized when you slide or jump more than once effectively. This is to stop egregious spam behavior, says X. However, we don't want to limit the player utilizing great movement, as we've seen from other clips and such. So, the sway penalty is not caused by sliding, only jump and crouch. Penalty will last a maximum of 1.5 seconds unless you continue to jump crouch within quick succession. So, I think Mark Rubin said it's kind of to stop bunny hopping, but it's also to kind of stop snaking as well. So, this is their solution to snaking, is to prevent abusive play while still maintaining a fun and fluid aspect of gameplay. So, Mark Rubin said whether they should actually keep this is a matter of debate, but they do want to find a way to stop snaking. You can't snake with this because your aim becomes inaccurate. Now, it shouldn't be a massive surprise that snaking can be relatively easily fixed by the developers if they really wanted to. I don't know if this is actually the best solution though, just because in Counter-Strike, for example, snaking, okay, it would be a thing in CS as well if the game allowed it to be. Let's say, if you guys have played a bit of CS, if you're back CT box on Mirage holding the A site and you just sit there looking towards Palace and you're crouch spamming up and down, you'd be a very hard kill. But CS doesn't allow that, because if you crouch up and down more than pretty much once or twice, your character gets tired and starts doing it really slowly. That to me is maybe the most simple and effective perspective here, is that if you try and crouch too many times in a row, your character just gets tired and stops doing it as fast, and snaking is effectively just not going to happen because you can't do it at any speed anymore. So, of course, the Counter-Strike mechanics are slightly different to how snaking works in COD, but the similar idea could be applied in a game like XDefiant as well, where if you crouch up and down too many times, I think even, was it World War II had some feeling like this was maybe going on, that if you did it too many times in a row, your character would just get tired and effectively would stop doing it. But obviously the devs would have to make sure that if that was to be the case, then, the kind of just about going prone doesn't reset that. So there's some things to think about, but just to show that it can be done in various ways. But Infinity Ward obviously haven't come up with any of those ideas yet. Also wanted to mention, going into Major 4, some viewership rewards, the drops that arrive when you watch on the Call of Duty mainstream. I always quite like these. I think they're quite nice. One of them though is a bit misleading, or like it's just strange to me, because I don't miss my ones. Surely that should be I don't lose my ones, right? Because the idea of a 1 is like when you're in a 1v1 situation, I don't lose them type thing, always clutch them in the 1v1s. So it's definitely meant to be I don't lose my ones, so I don't miss my ones. So okay, slight mistake there, but whatever. I guess the other ones are kind of cool. But to add on to this, the confirmation came through last night, as we discussed yesterday briefly, that indeed, as I thought it was going to be, June 15th through to the 18th in Las Las Vegas. That's when the World Championship is. I guess they spent a bit of time just preparing all the content around this and making sure the venue was locked in and everything and all the logistics around it. I think this has been known that it's going to be this weekend in Vegas for, I would say, 3 or 4 months now. I think it's been a rumor going around, but it's now finally been confirmed, and it's great to go back to Vegas, I think. I know that it's always at the Galen Center, whatever it is in Los Angeles, they like to do it at, and for people that are local, okay, that's nice enough. But I think it's nice to go to another city, and especially a city like Vegas, where Call of Duty has some great memories in the past, and of course has a team in attendance. Now, in fairness, last year in LA, there was some talk, right, especially after the events, that, okay, Los Angeles event-based, Los Angeles Thieves won the event. Did they have a bit of a home crowd buff? Should the World Championship be held in a kind of neutral location? That is a question, but the reality is I don't think it matters that much. And if there's one team, if they do qualify, that I would quite, enjoy getting a bit of a home crowd buff, if there even is one, would be Vegas Legion. Now, whether that would actually be a thing or whether there are actually people living in Vegas that really like Vegas Legion just because they're a Vegas team, I'm not really sure I'll buy that necessarily, but if they did qualify, they would have some crowd support wherever they turned up to be. So it's the Thomas and Mack Center in Nevada. This is what it looks like from the front, and then the inside of the venue, as Breaking Point points out, right? So these are the steps up to the front of it. It's a big venue, right? They'll reconstruct this in whatever way they want to get the attendance that they would like to get and the potential audience numbers that they feel like is potentially achievable. I think the tickets go on sale in just a couple of days' time, while the pre-sale is open like in maybe today or tomorrow, and then the tickets go live in a few days. So exciting stuff. Only a couple of months, right? And it is, got to be said, a very early World Championship. I think this is expected given the fact that Major 5 is late May, like what, 25th to the 28th of May, Major 5. So usually it's 2 to 3 weeks after that where the World Championship happens, which makes sense. You don't want to have a massive period off. I do wish there were 6 majors, right? If there were 6 majors and June was some qualifiers, then another major in early June, and then the World Championship was end of July, start of August, I don't know, kind of like where it used to be, then we'd have a great season. I think we already have a great season. I like the fact that it started earlier. It makes sense. But yeah, the World Championship in June, when the new game is probably not going to come out, right? It's going to be this game again for next season, but the new game theoretically would come out in November. That's a long off season, right? I mean, it's basically 6 months on, 6 months off, and it's not like we haven't not had that in the past. But I just think one more major cycle would really round out to what would be an even better season than we already have. I quite like the way the season's gone, but there just needs to be a little bit more, I would say, as a just fan of Call of Duty in general. So Vegas are going to try and make the World Championship. Time to make the run to champs. I'm sure they're going to be massively motivated by the idea that it actually is in Vegas, and here's Clay trying to come for that, and even kind of Temp quote tweets this as well, implying that he's rather confident this is going to be the case. They are right now marginally ahead of the Minnesota Rokkr. They both do not have an easy time, I would say, at this major. Rokkr play LA Thieves first round, Vegas play the Subliners, and Vegas, I think, really need to get a bit of a gap here on Rokkr, because Vegas's stage 5 run is definitely more challenging than Rokkr's, I think. So, maybe marginally so, but Rokkr should have a couple more wins there than the Legion do. So I think Legion really need to get top 6 here if they really want to be feeling confident about making the World Championship. But one other team that should be rather happy about it going to Vegas for the World Championship is OpTic Texas, because they've got Dashy on their team. Now, you might say, well, it's not really a big deal. You go to the event, you play how you play. But there is a thing in different sports, and certainly in esports, with the formal story at Orlando, that certain players at certain venues or just certain cities do incredibly well. Formal has a ridiculous history in Orlando, Florida. Back in 2011, I believe, he won his first Halo event in Orlando. A few years later, when he joined the OpTic team that was the early part of the dynasty with Najot, he won UMG Orlando in 2015. And then 2 years later, in 2017, he won the World Championship in Orlando, I believe it was, on Infinite Warfare for the OpTic dynasty. And then a few years later, just last year in 2022, they went back to Orlando, and Formal won again with the OpTic Halo team. So for whatever reason, Formal in Orlando is just a match made in heaven, and whenever he's there, he just seems to win. Basically has an undefeated record whenever he's in Orlando. Now, there isn't quite the same tenure for Dashy in Vegas, but the last time that we went to Vegas as Call of Duty, it was Las Vegas 2018, the start of the Black Ops 4 season, December 5th through the 7th, I believe it was, and Dashy, his first event on OpTic Gaming, won the event, got the MVP hands down. Krim, Karma, Scump, TJ, of course. Dashy here, TP as coach, legendary team, can never really match up this performance with the rest of the season, but it was a great start and a great welcome back for karma really after he was effectively dropped in the previous season. But Dashy came to this event and was absolutely unbelievable. And he's replying to Teach about pretty excited to actually be getting to Champs in Vegas. And if we look at Dashy's Twitter, he also did retweet this tweet, understandably pretty quite excited about the possibility, because if you guys didn't follow back then, this was Dashy's performance at that particular event. One of the after Formals Infinite Warfare Champs performance. This is one of the best individual events we've ever seen from a player. A 99 overall, as a Lineman card was at the time. Performance of the year, says Lineman on the card as well, which I think is totally justifiable. I think it's the best individual event performance anyone had. In fairness, I felt kind of bad for Arcitys this event, because Dashy had like a 1.44 this event, as Formal did at Infinite Warfare Champs. Arcitys had like a 1.38. He had a crazy good event as well that he United, but it was overshadowed by Dashy. He was on the Tempest tier, right, or whatever the character was called. Prophet, wasn't it? Something like that. 1.36 and a half points, 99, I mean 99 is all across the board. A 2.2 in Search and Destroy and a 1.4 in Control. Like, just an outrageous event from Dashy, and probably his best event of his career. And after this, a lot of OpTic fans, understandably, and a lot of the rest of the scene thought, damn, how many is Dashy going to win over the coming years? But it turns out that he's only actually won Major 1 in Vanguard since then in Texas. So, you know, this is only one of his 2 event wins, and maybe he's going to try and capitalize on some of that energy when they return to Vegas at the end of the season, right? OpTic, of course, are going to qualify. I don't think it's officially locked in yet, but, you know, it's obviously not going to be too far from now where it is mathematically impossible for them to be overtaken if they were to lose every single series for the rest of the season. Also, a bit of, you know, between Dashy and Envoy here, just wanted to mention that Money Mode mentions that Octane apparently had said on stream that it was Florida that warmed them up before their series against Minnesota, as opposed to, I thought maybe it was OpTic and the whole Envoy tweet as we discussed yesterday. So apparently that wasn't the case. Just wanted to clarify that one. Before we close out as well, though, I did see this from iLLeY yesterday, that he liked this tweet from Kremp, which is a little bit interesting, right? Okay, it's an interesting tweet from Kremp. Maybe iLLeY just likes the idea of this tweet of what it's trying to imply, but also the idea that Kremp is playing OpTic in the first round of the major. Maybe iLLeY's like, oh, you know, like, take these guys down type thing. Maybe not what he's getting at all, but thought it was a little bit interesting to mention, because iLLeY hasn't done much on socials lately. Maybe it's time, and people have implied this in the last few days, that should he just give some sort of statement about what's going on, when he's going to return, the fact that he's not injured, because he told me privately that his thumb is not injured and it's fine, but I still saw Parasite on the flank talking about it, and you can understand that it's a common perception that, well, if iLLeY isn't playing, what's going on, is he injured and stuff, but he told me he's not injured at all. But if maybe he should let that be publicly known, and maybe it could help his chances a little bit going into next year, given the fact that teams are going to be considering what their options are, and I'm sure iLLeY could be a valuable player, but the questions still are there. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
If you actually want to get on a team in COD, first you got to probably change that name, because I just don't see that name just being great. Like Rafiki, there's no way that's just like a dominant pro. So just change something else, maybe like Achilles, and then you just have to play the game within the game where you like social network yourself, you know what I mean? You gotta market yourself to like everybody. Get yourself in the TS. You can just like make an email, put a phishing link in it, send it to one of the like pros that would click on it, like one of the idiots. Make them like click on it, get control of his PC, invite yourself to the TeamSpeak, and then once you're in there, just say you're friends with someone else that doesn't come in there that much anymore, and then start like making friends with people. And then that's like step 1. You got all that?